everyone.
Hi.
AMP Adventures here. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Patrick.
And today we're going to walk across the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah.
Which will be quite fun. It is April 2023. The sun is shining. We've got blue skies. It's 11 degrees Celsius. It's 53 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's right.
And it's a gorgeous day to walk across the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah, it's a picture-perfect day. We're going to get some nice shots today.
All right, so let's do it.
Let's go.
So right now, you're basically looking at the Dumbo area. Dumbo stands for Down Under the Manhattan Bridge Overpass. And we'll see the Manhattan Bridge. Well, you'll see a little bit of it coming into view right now. But we'll see more of it, of course, once we get out onto the bridge, which we're making our way towards right now.
Yeah, it is a bridge, so if you're hearing the traffic, that is cars going by, lots of commuters traveling into work, into Manhattan today.
Zipping below us.
Yeah.
So you'll hear that the whole time, and but that's part of the Brooklyn Bridge ambiance, the BBA, as it were. All right, so making our way onto the bridge, it opened in 1883, and when it opened, it was the longest suspension bridge in the world. Had 14 years of construction. They began in 1869. It was the first bridge across the East River, which we'll be seeing shortly, the East River. It spans 1,500 feet or 460 meters of the East River. But the bridge is really about 6,000 feet long, or about 1,800 meters long when you include the on-ramps and off-ramps and all that. It's about 85 feet wide, or about 26 meters. And at the peak of the bridge, we're going to be about 127 feet off the water, about 39 meters. Cost about $15 million, or about $320 million in today's dollars. Wowzers. There's the Manhattan Bridge you're seeing over there. Patrick, what's that really tall building behind the Manhattan Bridge?
Oh, that is it's an apartment building. That's One Manhattan. We get asked that a lot on our tours. And that's an apartment building. It does stand out.
It really does, yeah. It's got to be pricey to be over there, I bet. You're right on the water.
You're also looking at basically Midtown Manhattan, those shorter buildings in the skyline, although they're not so short. Those are some tall skyscrapers when you get up close to them.
Now, making our way further across the bridge, I'm going to talk about the designer of it and the design of the bridge. So it's designed by a gentleman named John Roebling. And John Roebling was born in Mulhausen, Germany in 1806. He studied engineering and philosophy in Berlin. And then in 1831, he and his brother moved to the United States and they founded a new community, Saxonburg, Pennsylvania. And they started farming. But John quickly discovered that he was not cut out for farming, which was actually the same as me. I grew up on a farm in Illinois. I quickly discovered I was not cut out for farming.
Oh, yeah.
And so he decided to return to his roots of engineering. And he discovered that you could twist steel wires to create a very strong steel rope. So behind his house in Pennsylvania, he started the very first steel rope factory. In 1844, he started building bridges. So in addition to quite a few bridges that are no longer standing, he built the Allegheny Bridge in Pittsburgh, bridge across the Delaware, which is the oldest existing the Delaware River, which is the oldest existing wire suspension bridge. And then he also built sort of a precursor, some would call it a dress rehearsal, although I believe the plans were already laid before the Brooklyn Bridge came about, or the idea of it, but a bridge across the Ohio River from Cincinnati to Covington, Kentucky, which is now called the John A. Roebling Suspension Bridge. That opened in 1866. That's Lower Manhattan you're seeing there on this beautiful April day.
Yeah, Manhattan is being lit up so beautifully. We have a really good lighting department.
We really do.
Working for us.
Yeah, we pay them well, and they take care of our shots. So Roebling was selected as the chief engineer, April 1867, and this I find astounding. He produced all the drawings, surveys, and budgets within 3 months, which is just truly remarkable. Construction wouldn't begin until January 2nd, 1870, but the beginning of construction was not without its major setbacks, and the biggest one was that on June 28, 1869, about 6 months prior to the beginning of construction, while doing some final surveying, John's foot was crushed between a ferry and a piling, or sort of like a pier footing. He developed a tetanus infection, which sadly led to his death 17 days later. And John's 32-year-old son, Washington, was hired to replace him. So as we approach this plaque, you're going to see both of their names, John A. Roebling and Washington A. Roebling, as the engineers of the Brooklyn Bridge. Now, there's a third engineer really involved, and we're going to talk about that person coming up in just a little bit. As we make our way around the giant towers here, also notice this plaque on the side indicating that it is a National Historic Civil Engineering Landmark, the Brooklyn Bridge.
I love that it got national landmark status. Well done.
Yes. And now we'll turn around on the other tower and show the plaque over here, which gives a little bit of our story away. But at this point in our journey, it's best to see it, which it says, the builders of the bridge dedicated to the memory of Emily Warren Roebling. So remember that name. That's what we'll say. Remember that name.
For a cliffhanger.
So where we left off in our story was that sadly John Roebling had passed away, and his 32-year-old son Washington was hired to replace him. So Washington followed in his father's footsteps. He had a lot of his training building bridges in the Civil War. After the war, he moved to Cincinnati and helped his father with the suspension bridge there. And he even helped finish that project when his father came back to New York to start working on some of the Brooklyn Bridge details as well. So now the first steps to building the bridge was building a caisson. And you know, I'm no engineer. Neither one of us can claim to have great knowledge on that. But the easiest way to think of it is take a giant box and you turn it upside down and you submerge that in water, and then pressurized air is pushed in to keep the water out. So then workers could then go inside the box to dig down to the bedrock in order to anchor the two stone towers on either side of the bridge. By the way, you're seeing the Manhattan side tower right now. We just passed the Brooklyn side tower.
Yeah, we're walking into Manhattan right now.
Ooh, into Manhattan we go.
Yeah. I also just want to point out, while we've stopped, just because we're going to pass these, and often people ask us what these barriers are here, and they are to stop people from climbing. These oval barriers you can see that stops people from climbing up to the top of the bridge towers. A lot of people get adventurous and and for various reasons want to climb to the top for some reason. So you can see those little doors in the center of them. Those are for workers to be able to get through. So the men or women that need to get to the top of the tower for work reasons do have access, but that's what those are for.
It's funny, I would think something else would prevent them from climbing that, and it's called common sense.
Oh, ever heard of it?
For crying out loud. So going back to the caissons, they were quite dangerous. They had thin air, there were frequently fires down there. March of 1871, the Brooklyn side caisson was completed. The New York side would have to be about 60 feet deeper, but a lot of men were getting sick. Some were even dying from caisson's disease, also known as the bends, which is basically a disease that's caused when bubbles form in the bloodstream due to a rapid release of nitrogen as those workers would ascend from the depths of the river. But because of all the men getting sick and the deaths, Washington decided to halt the digging for the New York side tower before hitting bedrock and decided to lay concrete on top of sand. And to this day, the New York side is actually not anchored into the bedrock. Ooh, shaky grounds. Now, sadly, during the construction of the New York side caisson, Washington developed the bends and was essentially paralyzed. And he became basically a recluse who lived in constant pain and anxiety. And he was not able to properly finish the project. And we're going to leave a cliffhanger there as to who became the new engineer. And you might have guessed already. But instead, we'll just kind of pause a little bit here because we're in at the peak of the bridge. And we have no wires, so we can get some good views.
Oh gosh, these stunning views of Lower Manhattan and that beautiful Lower Manhattan skyline. And the skyline is really impressive north of us too, but we're just farther away from that. We'll point out a couple of iconic buildings as we're showing you this northern view. But that's right there, probably in the center of your screen, is the Empire State Building. Let's zoom in just a little bit, see if we can get a good shot of the Empire State.
Ooh, the sun's hitting the spire perfectly up
there. So right there in the center of your screen, that's of course the Empire State Building. And if you go over, I don't know, a few buildings, I'll try to get the Chrysler Building, which is a little smaller, that pointy building right there in the center. That is, of course, the Chrysler Building right there.
Not as well lit either. We'll have to talk to our lighting department about that.
I guess so.
Yeah. And also from here, we can see kind of one of our newest areas of Manhattan, which is Hudson Yards.
Yeah.
We get kind of a great uninterrupted view of all of that. So that's all the way over to by the Hudson River, basically around 34th Street, so all the way west.
That's right. Those cluster of buildings you're seeing right in the center of your screen, that is all pretty much brand new Manhattan real estate, which is kind of crazy to think about. Manhattan finding new real estate. But
while we're pulled over, should we do a zoomy zoom on Lady Liberty and see if we can see her? Because our lighting department did light her up, but the zoom might not get us as close as we would like, but at least you can see where she is from here.
Yeah.
That's New York Harbor you're seeing there. The orange ship you're seeing is the Staten Island Ferry, and there she is,
I'm going to zoom in as much as we can. That's about as far as we can go there. There she is, right in the center of your screen. You can see that green Lady Liberty there.
She's looking good.
She does look good.
Yeah, and you see a little bit of the Staten Island Ferry there in the foreground as well.
Keep it up, girl.
Yeah.
All right.
As we zoom out, the island to the left is Governor's Island, which we'll have a tour of that as well. A terrific, used to be, the Coast Guard was there, now kind of a recreational place for New Yorkers. For New Yorkers and tourists alike. So, we left a big cliffhanger.
Yeah, we did.
John Roebling, the original engineer and designer, has passed away. Washington, his son, has taken over, but Washington developed the caissons disease, or the bends, and is basically homebound. So who is next in line? Well, enter Emily Roebling, Washington's wife. So this goes back to the plaque we showed you on the Brooklyn side tower. So after Washington became confined to his bed, he ultimately would continue to supervise from his Brooklyn Heights window, which was basically behind us when we started our tour. That was Brooklyn Heights. And he would supervise with his wife, Emily, being his liaison. So she began taking dictation. I ran into a jogger. Lots of folks jogging across the Brooklyn Bridge this morning on a gorgeous April morning. So she began taking dictation to relay those notes to his team, to the city. But however, over time, she also started studying engineering. She became quite fluent in all of the lingo and developed an extensive knowledge in designing and building materials and construction. And she also became an incredible diplomat with the city and the crew. And she would ultimately lead the project of building the Brooklyn Bridge to completion for the next 11 years.
Incredible.
Yeah. Why there is not a movie of her yet, we do not know.
Yeah, we keep waiting for that story to, be made into a movie, because it's such an incredible story. But maybe one day.
Yeah. She also gives credit, I think this is remarkable too, she also gives credit to Washington's assistant engineers, who had an average age of 31. You know what I was not doing at 31? Building massive civil engineering projects that would change the scope of a major city in the United States. So she was ultimately the chief engineer. There were some delays in the bridge, but ultimately she did it. 11 years of work. She ultimately got it completed by the time she took over 11 years, and it opened May 24th, 1883. She was the first person to cross the bridge. She went across in an open carriage while holding a rooster, a symbol of victory. And it was a huge celebration with a dedication by President Chester Arthur and New York Governor Grover Cleveland. Businesses were shut down. There were huge fireworks. It was a major event. This is the Manhattan Tower you're seeing now at this point in time. So the year stamp you're seeing there, 1875, that's when this tower went up. Ultimately, the bridge opened in 1883, but that's when this tower was completed. So now once the bridge was open, it was almost literally like a whole new world for people.
Yeah.
You have to consider that the 5 boroughs of Manhattan were not consolidated into New York City yet. So Brooklyn was its own separate city.
Yeah, the two cities, the New York and Brooklyn. They call, a lot of people refer to Brooklyn as the other city still. So if you ever hear that, that was a reference to prior the consolidation of the boroughs being together.
So now with the Brooklyn Bridge complete, folks could walk from Manhattan to Brooklyn or vice versa. And before they had to take ferries basically from at the bottom of your screen, that area, there'd be ferry boats that go back and forth, kind of the South Street Seaport area as well, which we have a tour of that as well you can check out. It was essentially like climbing a mountain as you came up here. Before the highest anybody maybe had climbed would have been about a 6-story building, and now they were at least double that height and over water, which is remarkable. Now, the stone towers that you've been seeing are made of limestone and granite and cement. They are built in the neo-Gothic style. When they went up, they were the tallest structures in the nation at that time, 280 feet tall or 85 meters. And notice all the wire coming away from them. There's 4 main cables that help kind of support everything, and then quite a few more beyond that. A total of 5,282 wires to make up each of the 4 main cables. 14,000 miles of wire make up the entire bridge, or 22,500 kilometers. And we'll kind of pull over now and talk a little bit about the wire as we make our way along. But notice here, as we do a little close-up, you can see how there's a wire, twisted to a wire, twisted to a wire, making up another wire. And then in the background, you can see the wider one. That's what's inside those tubes, basically, a bigger wire that connects it all. So again, 14,000 miles or 22,500 kilometers of wire making up the bridge. The bridge, which spans 1,500 feet of the East River, but it's ultimately 6,000 feet long, 85 feet wide, 127 feet off the water. We have now 5 lanes of roadway for cars, and I say now because there used to be 6. Where we're walking right now used to be a bike lane.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see the white line. It's sort of faded now, but this white line used to divide. Pedestrians would walk on the left and bikers would be on the right. So bikers used to also share this pathway, this walkway, with pedestrians. So they got rid of one of the lanes on the westbound side of the bridge for vehicular traffic, and they've created a bike lane there. So thankfully, because there were lots of not crashes, but it was hard to share the path with the cyclists. So creating that bike lane on the vehicular section of the bridge was hugely helpful for everyone.
And that just happened. That was 2021, so just about a year and a half, 2 years ago that happened. There were also elevated trains on the bridge until 1944, streetcars until 1950. More than 100,000 cars and more than 4,000 cyclists and 10,000 pedestrians go across the Brooklyn Bridge every day. The laborers on the bridge, the masons made 30 cents an hour, the day laborers 12.5 cents an hour, and the riggers 15 cents an hour.
Boy.
Yeah, pretty incredible. It's been featured in so many movies. Manhattan, Sex and the City, Enchanted, On the Town, Splash, Spider-Man, I Am Legend, Godzilla. The list could go on and on because it is one of the most iconic sites of New York City and, dare I say, the world, actually, the Brooklyn Bridge. So we're going to kind of wait till these gates clear a little bit, and then we're going to show off a couple buildings in Lower Manhattan as we make our way around here on this gorgeous April day, 2023.
Yeah.
11 degrees Celsius, 53 degrees Fahrenheit. So let's see. Let's talk about, let's do those 2 with the spires right over here. So I'm going to talk about 2 of them. The one is on the left. which has kind of a silver spire right there to the left of the green roof, if you're confused as to which one I'm talking about. That's 70 Pine Street. It was designed by Clinton M. Russell, Holton, and George. Art Deco building completed in 1932. It's 67 stories, 952 feet, or it's 290 meters. Now, there was a zoning resolution in 1916 which basically said that the top floors of buildings had to be 25% of the size of the lower stories to let sunlight down. So that's a good example of seeing that zoning resolution. It was the first zoning resolution that we had of that kind. And that's a perfect example of it. It was built to be an office building, but it's since been converted into luxury apartments and a hotel as well. There's a restaurant up at the top as well. Now, just to the right of it is that green roof building. That's 40 Wall Street. It's 927 feet tall, or 283 meters. It was completed in April of 1930 in the neo-Gothic style by H. Craig Severance. And it was originally erected for the Bank of Manhattan. And interestingly enough, it was in a race to be the world's tallest building. And it was racing against the Chrysler Building. But the Chrysler Building had a little trick up its sleeve, or I should say in its building, a trick in its building, which is that they had built a spire of 125 feet, or 38 meters, to hoist up at the last minute, so that it could best 40 Wall Street to be the tallest building in the world. This building was and still is an office building, by the way. That is all Lower Manhattan. You're seeing essentially the financial district portion of Lower Manhattan that you're seeing.
It's funny,
right there.
that zoning law was a valiant effort, at the time to keep, so that people would get light. It was all to keep light coming into the city. But, eventually, as you can see, so many tall skyscrapers went up that, I don't know if that zoning law is still in effect. I don't think it is. But they tried.
Yeah, it did. Now, the opening of the bridge was not without its setbacks. So 6 days after it opened, a woman slipped and fell amidst a jam of about 15,000 people who were out enjoying the bridge. And her fall caused another person to scream, which ultimately sparked a chain reaction of confusion. And it quickly led to a stampede of people trying to get off the bridge because they thought the bridge was collapsing. And it sadly led to the death of 12 people. And it also led to sort of lingering doubts about the stability of the bridge. So the city called in P.T. Barnum, the big circus mogul, yes, exactly. Called in P.T. Barnum to help. And he paraded 21 elephants and 7 camels across the bridge to promote his new circus, but also to instill a little bit of confidence back into New Yorkers so that they could feel trustworthy of crossing the bridge again.
A little bit of 2 birds, 1 stone. He promoted his new show and calmed people down.
Now, going back to Emily Roebling, our ultimate chief engineer, our heroine of the story, she went on to continue her education. She received a law degree from NYU, New York University. She devoted herself to several women's causes, and she argued for greater women's rights, highlighted discrimination against women. Because you have to remember that when she was the chief engineer of the Brooklyn Bridge, she still wasn't even allowed to vote in our country. It's just remarkable. She did pass away in 1903 at age 59. What's kind of incredible about that too is Washington lived on to 1926. He passed away at age 89, and he was the one who was, so ill he couldn't finish the bridge. It wasn't until 1951 that she really got the credit she deserved. That plaque we showed earlier on in the tour, they finally put that plaque up there. They've also opened up a plaza underneath the Brooklyn side of the bridge, known as the Emily Roebling Plaza, which has quite a bit of information on her. It's a beautiful planting, some beautiful plantings in that area. So finally, a little bit.
I know,
of
such
credit.
A shame that it took nearly 50 years for her to get the credit. But they did at least finally do the right thing.
So this next building is being lit so perfectly today, right in the middle of your screen. The New York building, built in 2011 by Frank Gehry. They also did the Disney Concert Hall in Los Angeles, Museum of Pop in Seattle, the Dancing House in Prague, which is incredible. If you've never seen that, Google it right now.
Yeah, it's a cool building.
The Guggenheim in Spain. This is about 76 stories, this building. The architectural style is known as deconstructivism, kind of this fragmented appearance with no harmony or symmetry. But it's kind of, I mean, especially with the light hitting it right now, you can see how it's curvy and twisty and wavy. And
yeah, that's not supposed to have harmony, but in a strange way, all of the curves are harmonious.
Yeah.
You know, just in and among themselves.
This has 900 apartments in it, by the way, which I believe are all rentals. I don't think there are condos in it. I think it's all rentals. And I think there's a public elementary school in there as well. Now, no less impressive, but somewhat dwarfed by it, is the Woolworth building, which you'll see just behind it, and it's kind of got the green top to it. And as we continue, that green will get framed by the sky a little bit better. You'll see it. But I'll start chatting about it now. It was designed by Cass Gilbert. It was opened in 1913, became a National Historic Landmark in 1966. It was the world's tallest building from 1913 to 1930, surpassed by the Chrysler Building. Well, a little bit 40 Wall Street, just for days until the Chrysler Building hoisted up its tower, as we were talking about. 60 stories. It's in the neo-Gothic style. Now, it was originally decorated mostly with terracotta, although the lower portions are limestone, although really quite a bit of it is concrete now due to a major renovation in the 80s. Now, it was designed to be the headquarters for the popular five and dime store Woolworths, and the Woolworth Company did own it up until 1998. Now the top 30 floors are residences, the bottom 30 are commercial and office tenants. Cass Gilbert, who designed it, by the way, also did the U.S. Supreme Court building, St. Louis Art Museum, state capitals of Minnesota, Arkansas, West Virginia. Those residences, by the way, can go for anywhere from $5 million to upwards of $30 million. They are quite swanky and incredible.
You gotta have a chunk of change.
Yeah. Now, to the left of it, just framed perfectly in those buildings, is One World Trade. Opened November 2014, the tallest building in the United States at a total height of 1,776 feet, or 1776. In meters, it's 541 meters, but that doesn't have the same recognition as 1776, which of course is a direct reference to the signing of the Declaration of Independence. There is an observation deck up there, which is kind of cool.
Really fun. We don't want to give anything away, but if you haven't done that observation deck, there's a fun surprise at the top. So check that out.
So we are arriving on the Manhattan side of the bridge right now, and if we were to continue straight off the bridge, we'd run right into City Hall. If we were to do a sharp right, we'd go into the Chinatown area. A soft right, we would go into what would we call this area? Kind of the governmental.
The court buildings are all there.
And then if we were to go left, we would be in the financial district. We would be in Lower Manhattan. A sharp left would take us into South Street Seaport. Of course, we pointed out where One World Trade is. So if you wanted to go over to the 9/11 Memorial, that's to our left as well.
Yeah, this is a good area down here. You know, Manhattan gets skinny at the bottom. So, you know, you can hit a lot of sites down here in Lower Manhattan. Chinatown, the Brooklyn Bridge, Wall Street, the 9/11 Memorial. There's a lot down here.
You can see the bowl.
Yeah, you can see the bowl.
So we're gonna kind of pull over here, and you can see how it goes straight. You can go straight down to Chinatown right there, a little walkway.
Yeah, just go down these stairs and then head north. You'll run right into Chinatown, which is that direction.
But we have basically walked the entire Brooklyn Bridge. So we hope you enjoyed it. It was a beautiful day.
It really was. We got lucky with the weather today.
Yeah, we did. The sun was out, and
the lighting department. Thank you again,
yes,
lighting department.
Appreciate it. And the skies were blue. We were so fortunate for that. So check out our other tours. Please feel free to like this one, comment. If you haven't subscribed and you want to subscribe, go ahead and subscribe. Listen, you can always subscribe, and if you decide you don't like us, you can unsubscribe later.
Yeah, hit that subscribe button. And we love New York City, and we love showing it off. It's our hometown. We weren't born here. We were both born on farms. Aaron in the Midwest, me in Maryland, but we've lived in New York for decades now, and we just love it so much. So check out our other videos.
Yeah, and we're going to leave you with a beautiful shot of downtown Manhattan right now.
Right.